Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled South Carolina reported maintenance man for harassment and now being threatened with eviction. I am having some issues with my apartment and I don't know what to do. I'm going to be vague for the sake of my privacy. There's a new maintenance worker at my complex. A few weeks ago he is sent over to fix one of my appliances. At the time I was pretty distraught because I had gotten really bad news about the health of a parent. I was a snotty, crying mess. He comes in and goes to work and then starts asking really inappropriate questions, walks into my bedroom, asks if I live alone, tries to hug me. I was very uncomfortable but distracted, so I ignored all the red flags. He gives me his number to call back if there's an issue with the appliance he just fixed, because it is constantly breaking and they refuse to replace it. This is common here, I have all of their numbers. Well, of course, it is not working properly, so I text him. He responds after midnight telling me he would
love to come over and say hi,
followed by
I realize that's very forward of me, haha.
I was grossed out, so I ignored it. He does not take the hint. For the next 2 days he keeps texting me, telling me about our connection and
I cannot wait to hang out and reconnect again.
And then a text saying sorry, he missed my call and he was so bummed he cannot see me. What the F? I never called him. I ignored this. I was at the hospital with my parent in a life or death situation and that was the last thing on my mind. A few days later I have another issue with the same appliance. The complex sends him over. I am very uncomfortable with this, so I ask my neighbor to come over so I won't be alone with him. He is in the back of the apartment working and then walks into my kitchen and opens the pantry door and starts looking around. I asked him what he was doing and he told me he needed to be in there because he did. I said no, you don't. Please don't go through my things. He goes back to the back of the apartment and a few minutes later goes back into the kitchen and starts looking around and starts opening drawers. Again I said, what are you doing? Do not go through my things. He gets very angry and tells me he's doing his job and if he has to go in the kitchen, he just has to. Why, I say? He says he was looking for my breaker box, which was in the back of the apartment where he was working and where he had already turned the appliance off. I said, you know where it is. You already turned the appliance off and it hasn't moved, so what are you doing? He mumbles something, slams the door and leaves. I decide at that point to text him not to ever come into my home, proposition me, text me or contact me again, or I would go to the cops. I feel it in my gut that something is wrong with this person. I am afraid of him. I also decide to inform the office and show the texts. They promise to put a stop to it. After I tell the office, I start seeing him parked beside my car or lurking outside my building every day. This place has over 300 apartments. I never saw him around before this and he was here every day this week. And he parked right beside my car every time, even when the parking lot was empty. He is leering at me and giving me the dirtiest looks, following me with his eyes until I leave. I am starting to get really scared. Yesterday I have a visitor down in the parking lot and as I am walking down she sees him park right beside my car and give me the lewd stare down. She tells me to go back to the office and tell them again. She just witnessed the behavior I had mentioned. So we both go and I say again, he is scaring me and this behavior has escalated since just a few days ago. You all need to put a stop to it. They promise and act like they are appalled. I know nothing about this person, but I do know the only other handyman they have are an alcoholic and a meth head, so I decide to put his number into Facebook and see what pops up. There were some really disturbing, violent images on his page. One particularly with a handyman who killed an apartment complex woman with power tools. Another with a creepy maintenance guy with the master key sneaking into apartments. I was horrified. Maybe this was a mistake, but I emailed the office and said you all need to be aware of this, considering what I have told you about his behavior towards me and how much it escalated already. I also said I was scared and I just wanted to be safe and left alone, and I hoped they were doing something to ensure the safety of myself and the other tenants. I got an email back almost immediately thanking me for sharing and saying it was being forwarded to the property manager. When I got home today, I had a letter on my door informing me I was in violation of my lease for being disrespectful to a staff member and threatening me with eviction. It was on their letterhead but no signature. I was calm and polite when I went in there. In fact, I was recording the conversations with my phone because I've had issues with these people in the past. Such as last fall, the drunk handyman came into my place twice without even knocking, just opened the door like he lived there and started walking through the place. I have a police report for the second incident. I yelled at him the first time and thought it would be enough. But nope, he did it again. The thing is, I don't feel he would harm anyone. He is just an old drunk with boundary issues. We even talked about it and moved forward, but this? I am scared of this person. I've been disrespected in my home so many times by these people in the last few months, and I have remained polite throughout. Now I am being threatened with eviction for reporting harassment. What can I do? Can they evict me for being disrespectful? And this letter one day after I reported him for the second time? He lives on the property too. I apologize if this is disjointed. I am really upset right now. I found nothing in my lease that says I can be evicted for disrespect, and I have no idea what I did. I was not rude to anyone, I just wanna live in peace. And a user in the comments said, $5 says the handyman stole a piece of letterhead and wrote it himself. Go into their office tomorrow and ask to speak to a manager. If there isn't one, ask when they will be and go in then. Bring a copy of the letter and not the original. You might need the original to bring to the police for a restraining order, because if this came from him and it is unofficial, I would take it to the police. And another person said very much this. Also, since it looks like you will probably have to file a police report to keep the maintenance guy away from you, start taking short videos whenever he is stalking you. Give the time and date and show him in the car outside your apartment or wherever he is. Also, for safety's sake, consider blocking off your door whenever you are in your apartment if you don't have a deadbolt. And look into getting a nanny cam or similar for your apartment when you are not there. If this creep can get into your place, you need to protect yourself. And I gotta say guys, in this story I feel absolutely horrible for this poor young woman in the story. Even just thinking about it, that you have to somehow protect yourself from some creep that wants to get into your apartment is absolutely horrifying. And honestly guys, if I wouldn't know it any better, this story could be straight out of a Stephen King book. If you were in this unfortunate situation yourself, what would you have done? Aside from obviously having a baseball bat or something to knock this awful guy out. And the next one is an update to the South Carolina handyman story. So apparently the manager did put the note on my door as a ploy to get me to come talk to her. She is new, I've never met her before. My prior complaints were sent to the acting manager, who is now back to being just a leasing agent. New manager has been employed maybe a week. I'm not at risk for eviction. Personally, I feel that was a horrible way to deal with this situation. The maintenance guy reported me for disrespecting him with a rude hand gesture. She claimed she knew if I came in to dispute it, I was telling the truth. I was able to prove to her on the spot that what he claimed never happened. He said he saw me drive by and flip him off. I have windows tinted so darkly you cannot see inside unless you press your face to the glass. She claimed she knew he was lying because of the timing. She agreed there was something off and abnormal about him and personally did not like him. He gives her an uneasy feeling too, however he still has his job. They gave him a verbal and written warning and he's not allowed to do any repairs in my building, but that's it. That is the extent of his punishment. She said he was intimidating me on purpose. She also said he freely showed them the texts he sent me. He sees nothing wrong at all with his behavior. He also just so happened to walk by her office window right after I sat down and started talking. Her back was to the window, so she did not see him. After I left and got in my car to drive away, he just so happens to be sitting in his truck at the end of one of driveways and shoots out across the road, so I have to slam on brakes to keep from hitting him. What a coincidence. I filed a police report and the officer asked me why I waited so long to report. I was taken very seriously. They are confused as to how he still has his job because I have more than enough proof to show that I asked him to leave me alone and he is escalating his behavior. I am hoping to hear back from them sometime today. In the meantime, I have left. I am in a safe place and I'm not sure I'm going back, so I'm still paying rent for a place I cannot stay at. There was also a time I was not able to stay there for almost 2 months because I had a broken AC in the summer and it never got below the 90s in there and it was unlivable. Still had to pay my rent though. They are sending this info to their HR department. Although they don't have an HR department. The info is going to the regional manager who called me a liar and threatened to evict me previously because of my complaints about my AC not working. This woman actually caused me to have a panic attack once because I was sitting down trying to tell her that it had been a month at that point with no AC and I was beyond frustrated. I started crying and she got up and stood over me and put her finger in my face and called me a liar and told me she was cancelling my lease. These people are all nuts. I am living in a nightmare right now. So that is where I am at. Thanks for the advice everyone. This guy sets off her instincts too, but I'm the one getting screwed here. And guys, to be quite honest with you, it was sort of difficult to do any research in regards to this post because the OP actually deleted her profile. So what I did instead was contact every single person that commented under the thread, and at least one person, and I'm obviously not sure if that person is really genuine or if she's lying, but that person told me that OP chatted with her for a little bit after the second update and told her that the guy in question, the handyman, actually got fired. However, OP never went back to that apartment, which is obviously very understandable. However, as I said, take that as you will, that is just a second source because the original OP then deleted her account. Anyway, let's move on to the next story, and if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video because that helps my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, Ex-girlfriend wants to move back in 3 weeks after breakup, claims tenant rights. 3 weeks ago, my ex-girlfriend of 2 years and I broke up. We have lived together in California for about 1 year, 50 weeks, and moved to NC 11 weeks ago. She had been cheating on me and upon breaking up immediately moved to his place. Apparently things did not work out and the very same night she was back on my doorstep with her cases. She wanted to move back in until she had found a place of her own. I obviously turned her down, but was nice enough to give her a ride to the nearest motel. On the ride there, she was begging me and that it was just for maybe a few weeks until she had found a place of her own. Since I am still in the process of working through the breakup, I tried my best to stay calm and simply told her that it was not a good idea, and frankly, after what she had done to me, she should consider herself lucky I am even giving her this ride. 2 days pass and she is back at my doorstep, cases in tow again. She had
thought about it
and
informed her of her rights
and said that as a long-time co-rent, she had tenant rights and I could not just put her out on the street like that. She had not even changed her address with government agencies, she hadn't even gotten a new driver's license. However, obviously, she had already been removed from the rental agreement and I pointed out to her that her tenant rights ended when she walked out the door rather than that I put her on the street. She disagrees and has given me 1 day to think about it, 16 hours left before she calls the cops. So my questions, is she right or am I right that her tenant rights expired when she left on her own accord 3 weeks ago? Next, if she comes by with the cops and the cops tell me I have to let her in even if she's wrong, do I have to listen to the cops? For the record, there are no more possessions of her in this house. Next, does she stand any chance in court if she's trying to take it that far, and should I perhaps not risk it and serve her an eviction notice as soon as she moves back in, or is this deal done and dusted and should I just stand my rights? And a person in the comments said, NC cop here, while I don't deal with tenant disputes because that is the sheriff's world, I can say that from my experience that when she packed her things and she left, that she abandoned her right to stay. If you kicked her out it would be one thing, but she packed up, left, and sounds like she had every intention of not returning, hence the baggage. Call the police and request a domestic standby if she shows back up or threatens to. Also, give a call to your local sheriff for your county and get their advice on how to properly document and secure yourself if she attempts to push the issue. Well guys, and to me that ex-girlfriend in this case sounds like a textbook entitled person. What would you have done if you were in this weird situation? Let us know in the comments. Update to the ex-girlfriend wants to move back in story. Update, you know how Batman beats Superman? Prep time. First, I got in touch with the landlord and he gave me permission to get the locks changed, which I did. He also agreed that if the cops wanted, they could call him to confirm that my ex let him know she was moving out and that when he comes over a week after, she and her belongings were indeed gone. While some suggested to completely ignore the cops, having learned they couldn't actually force me to let her in, I thought it was smarter to talk to them and explain the situation. Also, in case my ex tries to pull something funny in the future, I don't want to put them against me when I might need them later on. Because I am nervous as hell, I decided to make it a well-structured, well-prepared encounter. I wrote and printed a script, took about 2 hours of 4 questions to establish the situation and make sure I am on the same wavelength as the officers when it comes to my rights. I also wrote out the timeline and collected some evidence to support my version of the events. Even with the script, I was very nervous and it may not have come out super smooth, but I thought clarity was more important. While she had given me 24 hours to let her back in, she showed up 22 hours after she made that demand. I was not surprised and had actually expected something like that, so I had just planned to spend hour 20 to 25 playing games. She had 2 police officers with them. When they rang the doorbell, they introduced themselves, explained what they were here for, ex-girlfriend says that you illegally evicted her, and asked if they could come in. I told them the police officers were welcome to come in, but that I did not want my ex-girlfriend to enter and that I would like that right to be respected. Not in the script, but I expected the question, so had the answer prepared. They agreed that one officer would come in to talk and the other one would stay outside with my ex-girlfriend. After establishing my rights in this situation, see the script, I gave them my version of events and showed them the screenshots and pictures to support it. They called my landlord who confirmed my story. They also looked around the house to conclude there was indeed nothing to suggest that my ex-girlfriend was a current tenant. They ended with the question if I was sure about my position of not letting her in, which I affirmed. They said they would respect that decision on their end and walked out and then away with my ex-girlfriend. The script, police officers' answers added in bold. Before we talk, I would like to ask you 4 questions to establish the situation. Okay. The reason you are here tonight concerns a civil matter, not a criminal matter, is that correct? Correct. Do you have a court order with you of any sorts through which you can compel me to do something in favor of my ex-girlfriend tonight? No, we don't. These things considering, is it fair to say you are here in the role of a mediator, not as a law enforcement officer? We are law enforcement officers at all times, but yes, we are currently here to mediate, not to enforce a criminal law that has been broken. So regardless of the outcome of our talk, you cannot give a lawful order to let her in, and I am in my rights to not comply, should this happen. If this is indeed a civil matter, you are correct. Thank you. Now let me say up front that I have no intention of letting her back in, and since this is a civil matter which has not been resolved in court, will respectfully decline any order to do so. Now, I would like to tell you my side of the story, which I will support with evidence to help you understand my position. And guys, unfortunately that is how the story ends, but I just thought that was a fantastic and very clever way of dealing with the police. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested. and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.